Singing the mic, singing the mic, singing the mic. How's it going, everybody? Hope y'all are doing well. So in today's video, we're going to be continuing on the beginner's guide to making music. And today we're going to be talking about audio interfaces. So like I said in the previous video, the audio interface is going to be the first piece of hardware you actually need to get started making music. It's essentially the hardware box that lets your computer talk with the DAW software that you downloaded last episode. So in today's video, I'm going to recommend a bunch of different interfaces broken down by price, and I'll talk a little bit about the features of each of them as well. Now I'm going to recommend a bunch of different interfaces, but there's a couple questions you need to ask yourself before you actually click the buy button. And the biggest question of all of these is going to be, what is your individual use case? And what I mean by that is, what are you individually going to be using this interface for? If you're only going to be using it for singing, then you only really need one mic input. But if you want to use this for a full band or a drum kit or something, you're going to need a lot more inputs. Maybe you're an instrumentalist and you need to record something in stereo like piano or guitar, then you're going to need at least two inputs. Are there any creature comforts you want, like an auto gain function? I'll talk a little bit about those, or 32-bit float so that you can basically fix your gain completely in post. And do you care about included software like a DAW or plugins or anything like that? I'll talk about all of that as we go through the recommendations, but just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. All right, so I'm going to break these down in 4 separate categories: sub $100, sub $300, sub $500, and sub $1,000. So my philosophy when it comes to buying gear is I like to stick with companies that specialize in the products they make. I typically won't recommend products from companies that specialize in something different, mainly because I've noticed that once they start expanding their product selection, usually the R&D when it comes to like their secondary products just isn't really as good. So you'll notice in this video, there's a lot of Universal Audio, Focusrite, SSL, Audient, all these companies that kind of started off as interface or console companies. Arturia, Yamaha, Lewitt, Rode, all of these different companies that kind of specialize in something else, I really wouldn't actively recommend their stuff just because I feel like other companies do it better for the same price. If you know you need a specific product like the Rode Rodecaster or something like that, don't let this video turn you off of it, but this is mainly for making music and the interfaces that I think do the best job of that. All right, so starting at our sub $100 price point, there aren't that many objectively good interfaces in this price point. I would definitely try to bump your budget up to at least $150, if not $200. But if you have to stick under $100, these are the ones I'd recommend. The Behringer Euphoria line is kind of a double-edged sword in my experience. They're cheap, they get the job done, and they last a long time if you get a good unit. They just don't have a lot of features or I/O, and the preamps in them don't have a ton of gain. They just don't sound very good. But also, it's $52, so you can't expect that much. I personally would recommend for pretty much anybody, even if you aren't recording anything in stereo, you get at least 2 XLR ins. The UMC 202 is about $30 more, $52 to $86. I would say for what you get, it's definitely worth it to bump that price up. If you can double the price up to about $100, the 204 has a lot more I/O on the back. Between the UMC 22 and the 202, the back is literally identical. The 204 is really where you get some more features. You get inserts, you get some unbalanced outputs, and you get MIDI ins if you have traditional MIDI, not USB MIDI, but traditional MIDI that use the actual MIDI plug. It only has one phantom power switch on the back, which I think is really stupid. So both of these are going to receive phantom at the same time. So if you have ribbon microphones or anything sensitive that phantom could mess up, just know that both of these are linked to the same phantom power. Really, the only other options in this price point are going to be the M Audio M Track. They have a solo and a duo. I would just recommend you get the duo. Very bare bones. It's not going to be anything fancy, but once again, it's only $70. You get 2 combo inputs, mic and instrument high Z, as well as phantom power and your monitor outs on the back. And it's going to be pretty much the same for our most expensive option, the Fender Studio Audio Box Go. I like that the phantom power is on the front for this, but basically the same deal, 2 inputs. For this one, you get 1 combo input and 1 instrument specific input. I personally would have liked if they had just gone with 2 combo inputs, but it is what it is. The old version of this audio box, the Audio Box 96, I think it was called, before Fender bought Presonus. That was the very first audio interface I ever bought, and I actually still have it. All right, if I can get the camera to focus on it, this is my old AudioBox USB 96. As you can see, it actually does have 2 combo jacks. MIDI on the back, monitor left, right. Headphone jack on the back, which I hated. It's stupid. Nobody should ever design an audio interface in that way, but I guess they did. You know, it's solid for what it does. It doesn't sound that good. The preamps aren't that powerful. It's not built super well, but you know, it's good enough for $100. All of these will get the job done until you can buy something nicer. All right, now moving on to our sub $300 range. This is the price point I would actually recommend you buy from. Starting off with the Focusrite Scarlett Solo 3rd or 4th gen, depending on how much you want to pay. I feel like every bedroom producer starts off on a Scarlett Solo, and for good reason. They're just very solid and very reliable. There isn't anything particularly special about them, but they just get the job done with no hassle, which I can appreciate. For some reason, on the 3rd gen versus the 4th gen, they moved the mic input to the back for some reason. I don't really know what the point of doing that was. I actually kind of like the design of the old 3rd gen a little bit better, but I would say whichever one you can afford. If you can afford the 4th gen, get the 4th gen. If you can afford only the 3rd gen's just fine. All right, so the SSL1 is the most budget interface that solid state Logic makes. It's going to be basically the exact same as the Scarlett Solo. The only thing extra that the SSL1 does well that I will comment on, the SSL1 supports 32-bit audio. And for beginners or people that are just getting started and don't really know how to gain stage all that well, or who might just make a mistake when they're gain staging for the first couple times, 32-bit float can kind of be a game changer because essentially it lets you completely screw up your gain staging and your recording while giving you the option to basically completely recover it in post. There's 16-bit, 24-bit, and 32-bit. 32-bit gives you basically infinite headroom with no distortion. There's actually 2 versions of 32-bit. There's 32-bit float, and then there's 32-bit fixed, which is what this interface is. 32-bit float basically means that you have indefinite headroom over 0 over unity. Fixed 32-bit basically sets your clipping point at 0, but gives you infinite gain below 0. So even if you record something way too quietly, you can basically recover all of it in post. And for someone just starting out, I think that's a really usable and helpful feature. So yeah, under $200, I think the SSL1 is really hard to beat for that feature alone. I would say really the only thing I don't love about it is that it only has 1 mic input and 1 instrument line input. All right, and now moving on to audience starting interface, the Evo 4. Now the Evo 4 doesn't have 32-bit, but it does have a auto gain function that for beginners I think is really helpful. Basically, this green button right here, all you have to do is plug in your guitar or sing into your mic as loud as you're going to when you do the take, and it will auto gain stage for you. And for beginners, I think that's a really awesome feature. It has an instrument high Z on the front, but it also has 2 combo inputs on the back, which I really like. I recommended this one to my bandmate because he needed a new interface, and he's really enjoyed the auto gain function. He pretty much just plays his guitar as hard as he can, and it's set for the rest of the session. He doesn't even have to think about it. Other than that, it's a pretty bare bones interface. You have your headphone jack on the front, just one single big knob, phantom power right here, monitor left, right. Really the biggest selling point is going to be that auto gain function, which I really like for beginners, like I said. So would definitely recommend the Evo 4, especially sub $200. All right, now moving on to Universal Audio's entry-level interface. Universal Audio makes a lot of good stuff. They're just very expensive for what you get, in my opinion. But the Volt 2 has a couple cool features. You got 2 combo jacks, which I like, separate gain on each. You have this vintage button, which is kind of similar to the 4K button on SSL's interface. It just kind of does the opposite. The 4K button on the SSL interfaces are kind of supposed to emulate their 4000 series consoles. If you listen to it, it basically gives it like a presence bump, so it's going to bump the high end a little bit. This basically does the opposite. It's a vintage mode, vintage. It basically just warms up the preamp. It kind of gives it a little bit of a high end roll off, maybe a little bit of a bass boost. It's basically just an EQ curve. The vintage button and the 4K button are kind of gimmicky in my opinion, but it is nice if you just want a different tonality on something. Just being able to press the button and you're done. You don't have to mess with an EQ or anything like that. It does have high Z instrument buttons for each input, which I like, but only 148 volt, which is pretty typical of this price point. You are going to get MIDI in and out on the back and then your monitor left and right, and that's pretty pretty much it. So nothing super special. Universal Audio is going to make solid stuff, but no like crazy features on the Volt series besides like the vintage button. All right, same price at right at $200 is going to be the Motu M2. I like this one because it has separate 48 volt phantom on each channel. It also gives you balanced and unbalanced monitor outs on the back, as well as MIDI in and out. You get a nice LED display to look at your levels. And from what I've heard, I have not tried out the Motu, but what I've heard is it has a very, very good headphone out. Now for most people, especially if you're just getting started, that really shouldn't matter that much. But if you have very nice headphones already, like these Neumanns or like some Bayer Dynamic headphones are kind of gain hungry, having a good headphone out can really be beneficial. So you can actually monitor at a reasonable level if you don't have studio monitors. So yeah, Motu M2 is going to be a solid choice. Moving on to our only PreSonus interface on this entire list. This is their new Quantum series. Now, let it be known, I have not tried the Quantum series. I only have experience with the old Audiobox series, but I am going to recommend this one, not only because it's on a pretty good sale right now, but also because it has the auto gain function that the Audient does. So once again, this is going to be really good for beginners if you don't really know how to gain stage well. PreSonus audio interfaces also come bundled with Studio One or Fender Studio Pro, whatever it's called now, which in and of itself is like $200. So you're getting a DAW for free. So for those two features alone, I would say definitely just look at the PreSonus Quantum. It probably won't be supported for that long. It does support Mac, Windows, iOS, iPadOS, and Android. So you could take this on the go and use it with a mobile device, but purely based on the auto gain function and you get the DAW for free, I would say it's a pretty enticing deal in my opinion. All right, moving on to the Focusrite 2i2, which I feel like is, if you don't get the solo, you get the 2i2. And basically the only difference is you get 2 instrument ends in the front and you get 2 mic ends in the back. Other than that, it's pretty much exactly the same. You get a couple more buttons on the front, but that's pretty much it. Focusrite's interfaces are going to be pretty bare bones, but they're going to be solid and they're going to last you a very long time. So of course I'm going to recommend the 2i2. All right, you may be wondering, why is there another Behringer interface on this list? And the only reason is because this is the only cheap interface that you could buy if you want to record like a drum set or a full band. It has 8 microphone ends, which should be enough for a pretty basic drum kit setup. It also has SPDIF and ADAT, so you can connect separate preamps. And it also has a bunch of line outputs that you could use for whatever. So if you just need like the cheapest interface to record a full drum set or multiple people, I would say look at the Behringer, just know that it's not going to be the best quality. All right, and moving on to the big brothers of the SSL1, this is going to be the SSL2 Mark II and the SSL2 Plus Mark II. So both of these are going to give you 2 microphone combo jacks, which I like. The main difference between the 2 and the 2 Plus is you're going to get 4 outputs, so you can connect 2 sets of studio monitors if you want that. You also get MIDI in and out, which you don't get on the 2. They're both going to be 32-bit, which I love. The only other difference is the 2 Plus is going to give you a lot more options for headphone monitoring. So it's going to give you a separate B channel, which you can see on the front here, but it's also going to give you the option to use line 3 and 4 on the back as headphone outs. So say you have 3 or 4 guys in the band and you all only have headphones to monitor on, this is going to make it a lot easier to monitor than the normal 2, which only has 1 headphone in. I would say the 2 Plus is worth it for only $70 more, especially considering this one's on back order, but you know, that's of course up to you and your budget at the end of the day. All right, moving on to the Motu M4. It's going to be just like the M2. It's just going to give you a couple more inputs on the back. So you're going to get your line in left, right, which you can also use to monitor headphones on. You're going to get your regular monitor left, right, and also your secondary monitor left, right for a second set of monitors. Also, you get unbalanced monitor left and right and unbalanced line out, which is nice. All right, now I would be remiss if I didn't recommend my Black Lion Revolution 2x2. This is the interface that I've recorded basically all my music on up until this point. I recorded my first album, my second album, and the album for my band all on this one interface. All right, this is my Black Lion Revolution. As you can see, this is what the back looks like. It's pretty bare bones when it comes to features. The only thing I really don't like about the interface is the 48 volt Phantom is tied to both inputs like a lot of these are and on the more budget side. Now I will say the preamps in this interface are very cool. They're not the cleanest or like lowest distortion things in the world, but they have a very cool character to them. So if you like really crank them, you can get this this really kind of like cool saturation or distortion out of them if you really like crank the gain. Also, the headphone amp on this is fantastic. It's super clean, super flat and neutral, and has pretty much all the power you could ever want for any headphone. Also, it's just built like a tank. Everything is metal, feels fantastic. I don't feel like I'm going to break anything on this. It feels like it'll last pretty much forever. So Black Lion is essentially a mod house based out of Chicago. Their main business is modifying universal audio interfaces and just putting better preamps, better circuitry in them, and just kind of beefing them up. My roommate told me that a classmate of his, when he was going to Blackbird here in Nashville, had one of these and how much he loved it. So when I was working for Guitar Center, I decided, screw it, I'll just go ahead and buy this since it has such good reviews. And I've really liked it. Really, the only downside is I wish it just had more inputs. That's why I had to get the SSL, is because the SSL has 4 inputs. This only has 2. And I needed to be able to record my mic and my cello in stereo with room mics at the same time if I wanted to. So that's really the only reason. But if you only need 2 mic inputs, this one's fantastic. All right, now moving on to the top of our budget for this price point is going to be the Evo 8 from Audient. And this is basically the Evo 4, just with more inputs. You also get a secondary monitor input for 2 sets of studio monitors and 2 headphone ends, which I like. So yeah, just more IO for the Evo 8. And for the same price, for $299, this can also get you into Audience ID line, which is their higher end audio interfaces. Now, you're not going to get as many features or inputs as the Evo line, but you are going to get a lot better build quality, a very solid headphone amp, and just a better preamp in general. The only thing I would say I don't like is it's a little expensive, especially when you only get 1 mic and 1 instrument in, but what can you do? This is their higher end line. And our last choice for this price point is going to be the Scarlett 4i4 from Focusrite, and it's just going to be an expansion on the 2i2. You get 2 combo jacks in the front, 2 instrument inputs in the back, 4 outputs for 2 sets of studio monitors, and MIDI in and out. So yeah, once again, pretty bare bones, but it's Focusrite, so it'll probably last you forever. Now moving on to our sub $500 range, this is really where I see the diminishing returns really start to hit hard. There's not as many options that are good for the money in this price range. The first one I'll recommend, especially if you're a drummer and you need a rack mount with a bunch of at least like 8 inputs like the Behringer we looked at, is going to be the Tascam US 1608. This is going to give you 8 microphone ends on the front, 2 instrument ends on the front, 2 MIDI ends on the back, and a bunch of line in and line out on the back as well. Pretty bare bones interface. You kind of have to know what you're doing, especially with all of these gain knobs, but it gives you the versatility. For $400, I would say this is well worth it in comparison to the Behringer. If you can push your budget up to $400, definitely do it. All right, and for the exact same price, you can also get the Scarlett 16i16. This is just an expansion on the 4i4. However, with this one, you get 2 combo ends on the front, 2 separate headphone ends on the front, which is helpful. 4 inputs on the back, you can attach 2 sets of studio monitors, MIDI in and out, but now you get optical ADAT in and out. So you can connect this to a separate preamp. So yep, once again, another Focusrite interface. It'll be solid. It'll last you a long time. So as you can see, we're just kind of expanding upon the $300 section with the Motu M6. So you're going to get 4 preamplifiers, 2 headphone amps on the front, 4 combo jacks on the back, 2 sets of monitor in and outs. You can also use 3 and 4 on this one. You can see here, you can use 3 and 4 as headphone monitors as well, and then MIDI in and out. Other than that, not too many more features for the M6 compared to the M4. Moving along, we're finally into Focusrite's higher end audio interfaces, the Claret series. This is the 2 pre, so it's basically like the 4i4 in terms of connectivity. You get 2 combo jacks on the front, 2 sets of line outputs for 2 sets of monitors, MIDI in and out, optical in for your ADAT, separate 48 volt phantom on this finally, which I appreciate. If you're really serious about making music and you kind of want to skip over all the like entry level stuff, I would definitely look at the Claret series. It's really solid and sounds really good. I also noticed on this one, I think it comes with all of the Scarlett line as well, but Focusrite includes a bunch of software they bundle in. So some of this could be helpful, some of it could not. It kind of just depends on you. So you get Melodyne Essential, Softtube Flow Guitar Essential, Native Instruments Massive, Lander. You can read the rest of it right here. So it does kind of come bundled with a little bit of software, which is nice if you need it. All right, and once again, I would be remiss if I didn't recommend my own interface. This is the SSL-12. This is their biggest desk mounted interface before you get into their rack mounted stuff. 2 instrument ends on the front, 2 headphone ends on the front as well. and then 4 combo jacks on the back, as well as 4 outputs for 2 separate sets of studio monitors and MIDI in and out, as well as ADAT if you have a separate preamp. You get separate 48 volt phantom on every single channel, which I love, as well as line and a high pass filter on every single channel separately. You also get the 4K button if you care about that, as well as a cut button, which is a mute button, the alternate, which is the send to your secondary set of monitors, and then a talk button because it actually has a little built-in microphone right here. So if you have a singer or somebody in the booth who you need to talk to, you can route this through your talkback mic. Sorry, I lied. This is your talkback mic. You don't need to set up a separate one. That is your talkback mic just built into the interface, which is actually really nice. 32-bit, which I've gone through. It's super helpful. I really, really like it. I don't think I would go back to an interface that didn't have 32-bit. And the last thing I'll say about this interface is the preamps are really, really solid. They're super clean and uncolored, but they also have so much gain that I can run this SM7 cleanly with no noise without a cloud lifter or a Triton fed head or some sort of inline preamp to boost the gain signal. I used to use a Triton fed head when I had my Black Lion because those preamps just don't have enough gain, but this does. I can crank this to like 8 or 9, and until you crank it to 10, you really won't notice any sort of noise. So yeah, really can't say enough good things about the SSL 12. It's really, really solid. Would recommend it all day for $500. All right, moving on to the Audient ID14, and I'm also going to include the 24 with it. Obviously, they're different prices. The 24 is about $150 more. For the $150 more, you get some more features. You get a 10 dB pad on each separate channel. You also get a high pass switch on each separate channel, which is cool. You get cut, dim, and the ID button. I don't know what the ID button does. I'm assuming it might be like an auto gain feature. Okay, so I just looked it up and I was completely wrong. Apparently the ID button lets you activate something called scroll control. So you can essentially hover your mouse over the plugin in your DAW software and you can turn the gain knobs on the interface to control those faders or something along those lines. Don't quote me on that. It seems like a cool enough feature. Might be a little bit gimmicky, but you know, it's there. The main difference between the 14 and the 24 is going to be the IO on the back. The 24 is just more professional grade in my opinion. So you can attach 2 sets of monitors to both of them. You have ADAT in on the 14 and in and out on the 24, as well as a world clock. You also have hardware insert sends and returns on the 24 as well. So it just has a couple more professional creature comforts. I would say if you're like really serious about music and you really want to invest in something solid, get the 24. If you're still on kind of a budget, the 14 is going to be just fine. It's just a little expensive for what it is in my opinion. All right, and last but not least in this price point is going to be the Scarlett 18i16. I know we're a little bit over budget, but I've seen this for less than 500, so I'm going to include it anyway. Really the only difference between the 18i16 and the 16i16 is these 2 combo jacks on the front. Obviously on the 16, you have 2 of them, and on the 18, you have 4 of them. So that's really the only difference. All right, I apologize if this looks different again. My SD card ran out of space. Per usual, I guess I just need a bigger one, but I have to record this with OBS, but we're going to continue with our $1,000 section now. So realistically, you just do not need to spend this much on an audio interface, especially if you're a beginner and you're just getting started. All of this is really if you just have the money and you want to spend it. The first one I'm going to recommend is going to be the UA Apollo Solo, which is going to be their step down from the twin. Universal Audio's interfaces are, like I said before, they're really good. They're just overpriced in my opinion. So you're only going to get 2 combo jacks in the back and you can only attach 1 set of studio monitors. You'll have your instrument in on the front, 1 headphone in on the front, and then you have all your buttons on the front, input, high pass, 48 volt, pad, all this stuff. This interface also comes bundled with a bunch of UA's audio plugins, which are really good. UA's plugins emulate a lot of outboard analog hardware, and I've only ever heard good things about them. So if plugins, these kind of like analog looking plugins are important to you, I would say this might be worth it, but just know it's a little expensive. If you do decide you want to go with the Solo, make sure you buy the right one though, because there's 2 different versions. There's the Thunderbolt version for Mac, also Thunderbolt cable not included. And then there's the USB-C version if you're a Windows user. So if you want this one, just make sure that you buy the correct version. All right, and moving on to Audience Evo 16. This is their big rack mount version of their Evo line. If you're tracking drums or tracking a whole band, if you can spare the money, buy this one. It has 8 combo jacks, 2 headphone ends, as well as the auto gain function. But the cool thing about this one is you can actually attach it to the SP8 smart preamp, and that's going to give you 8 more inputs. If I can actually find the photo, there we go. It's going to give you 8 more inputs as well as ADAT. So you can just connect a shit ton of preamps to this thing. If you buy both of these after tax, you're looking at about $1,500. So this is going to be your most expensive option, but for the versatility and ease of use, especially if you're tracking a full band with a full drum kit, this is going to be really hard to beat. It might not be the best physical build quality, but like I said, the versatility and ease of use is going to trump all of that, especially because these are going to be rack mounted anyway. All right, I'm going to throw this in here just because a lot of people like Apogee and they make really solid stuff. I know a lot of people use the Duet 3. If you're a beginner, I would not recommend this. This interface is very niche. It's built really well. It's all like metal and glass. It's got a really cool form factor. It's super thin, as you can see. But because it's super thin, it has no room for I/O. It has 2 USB-Cs and whatever this jack is, I'm not sure what it's called. And so you might be wondering, how the hell do you plug anything in? I'm glad you asked. You use this squid of cables. It has USB-C on one end, or whatever this proprietary connector is, and then it has your instruments and your XLR female. And that's how you connect stuff. That is the stupidest way to design and connect to a very expensive interface. It's $700. Or if you just want it to function like a normal interface, you can pay $200 more to get this adapter for it that just plugs into the back and actually gives you like normal I/O. But you only get 2 normal mic ends and 2 high Z ends, and you can only connect 1 set of monitors and 1 headphone out on the back. Also, it's just 1 big knob. That's the only thing you can actually touch and move on the whole thing. So it's kind of difficult to use. I would only recommend the Apogee if you know you want this one specifically for some reason. Other than that, it's overpriced and overly complicated. Also, I don't know why you would buy that when you could just buy something like this for basically the exact same price. This is the Scarlett 18i20. This is going to be their rack mount, their top line for the Scarlett when it comes to Focusrite. You're going to get 10 combo jacks as well as 10 more 1/4 inch outputs. This is just way more versatile for the majority of people. I would definitely recommend something like this just for the functionality alone over something like the Apogee. Also, in the future, if you do want to produce more or you want to record with more people, you can't do that with the Apogee. With the Focusrite, you can plug it into any of the 10 combo jacks and you are good to go. So it's just a lot more future-proof. All right, and now moving on to the Audient ID44. This is just going to be a continuation of the 24. You're going to get 4 combo jacks on the back, 2 sets of line outputs, world clock, ADAT in and out, as well as these hardware inserts, sends, and returns. You get 2 high Zs on the front as well as 2 headphone amps, which I like, and all the normal buttons. This one looks like it has a talkback as well, which is really nice. Only downside, in my opinion, is it's $900. Like the SSL12 is $500 for all the same features. All right, and now we're going to look at Focusrite's Claret rack mount. This is going to be the 8 Pre. This is basically the exact same I/O as the 18i20. It's just the Claret version. You'll get 8 combo jacks total, 2 headphone ends on the front. It looks like 10 line outputs, your world clock, your ADAT in and out, MIDI in and out, SPDIF in and out. So yeah, pretty much the exact same as the 18i20, just the Claret version. So it'll probably have a little bit better preamps in it. All right, second to last, I would recommend this, but only if you know what you're doing. So if you are a professional and you know you want the RME Babyface Pro. If you are a beginner, do not buy this. It is just like the Apogee. It's laid out really funky. It's got a weird form factor. Everything's built into like the sides. You got the instrument ends on the sides, MIDI in on the sides, ADAT. RME makes really good hardware, but it is definitely for professionals who know what they're doing because it is not like the most intuitive or easiest thing to use. Especially for $1,000, if you're a beginner, do not waste your money on something like this. All right, and the interface that the whole world knows is going to be the UA Apollo Twin. I would only recommend this interface if you have the money and you want it. That's pretty much the only reason. In terms of IO, there's really no reason to get it over everything else we just looked at. It's only got 2 combo jacks. You can attach 2 sets of monitors, which is good. It does have ADAT out, so you could connect a separate preamp, 1 high-Z input on the front, 1 headphone input on the front, and 1 big old knob just like the Solo. In my opinion, this is much more a flexing audio interface. If you just want to show off that you got the universal audio twin, you know, for $1,000, go for it. If you got the money to blow, sure. You get all the plugins and all the software that comes with it, of course. But in my opinion, for $1,000, you're very much paying for the name. I have messed with one of these before. They are built very well. The whole thing is metal. It's very heavy. So you're paying a little bit for the build quality, but you're mainly paying for the universal audio name, as well as just like product recognition. You know, if you are going to run or you want to run a home studio, a lot of people know this and they trust the look of the Apollo twins. So if you just want that look, that visual appeal for your clients, I can understand it, but personally, the functionality just isn't there for me, especially when it comes to that price point. Last but not least, and I know we're blowing our budget a little bit, but I have to include it since I've included all of the SSL stuff so far, and that's going to be the SSL 18, which is their big boy rack mount interface. Pretty much the exact same I/O as the Claret and the 18i20. You're going to have your 2 combo jacks in the front. You'll have your 2 headphone ins on the front, and then you will have 7 combo jacks on the front. I don't really know what TB means. You have your 3 through 8. I don't know what TB means, but it's there. And then you'll have your 10 quarter-inch outs, your ADAT, your instrument returns, SPDIF in and out, MIDI in and out, and your world clock. If I could buy absolutely anything, price no object, I would either get this or I would get the audience stack. All right, so everything I went through, I would actively recommend, but just to keep it simple, I'll go through each price point right now and recommend just one. All right, so for $100, there aren't really objectively any good interfaces, so I would probably just go with either the 204 or the Audiobox Go. I have experience with the Presonus Audiobox. It does the job. It's fine. My roommate has the Behringer. It's lasted him like a decade at this point. So they're not going to be good. They're not going to sound very good. The preamps they put in these cheap audio interfaces just don't have that much gain, aren't that clean. But if you're just getting started, they will do the job. So I would say either of these would be fine. They're basically identical. There's not that many differences. I would say maybe if you need to be on the go, the Fender does support Chrome OS, iOS, iPadOS, and Android. So if you need to hook this up to a less powerful machine or a mobile device, maybe go with the Audiobox Go. For the sub $300 range, I would say for versatility alone, I am going to go with the SSL 2 Plus. You get the 32-bit float, you get the separate phantom on each channel, you get the 4K button, you get 2 headphone in and outs. You can also use the 3rd and 4th output channel on the back as headphone in and outs, which gives you a lot of versatility. You can connect 2 sets of studio monitors. It also has MIDI in and out. So it is top in the budget at $300, but for what you get, I think this is really hard to beat. For the sub $500, you probably saw it coming. I'm going to recommend the SSL 12 because that is the one I chose. It has all the great features that I went through, separate phantom on everything. You get the talkback mic, 4K button, ADAT on the back so you can connect a separate preamp, which is awesome. And of course, the cherry on top, it's 32-bit float. So very hard to beat for the money, in my opinion. And for the sub $1,000 section, if you can buy anything, I would definitely recommend the SSL 18. It is breaking our budget though, so I will not pick this one. For this section, I would actually pick either the Scarlett 18i20 or the Audient Evo 16. They come well in under our budget and they have pretty much all the IO connections that you could want. If I had to pick one, I would probably go for the Evo 16 for the fact alone that you can connect the SP8 to it and have that auto gain function for pretty much all your inputs. And the thing I really like about that is say you're in a band situation and you want to record something live or you want to just get a full take of you playing together. If you have the Evo 16 with the SP8, all you have to do is hook up everything. Everybody plays like they're going to play live. And then the auto gain does all the work for you. You don't have to go in and individually gain stage each individual instrument and each individual microphone. So for that time-saving feature alone, I would go with the Evo 16. And then once you save up enough money, you can go ahead and buy the SP8 with it as well. All right, I think that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me. I know the audio interface rabbit hole can go very deep, so I hope this helped you kind of narrow down what direction you kind of want to go in. At the end of the day, though, your unique situation is unique to you, so buy according to your situation. Like I've said, cheap interfaces can get the job done in the meantime, so don't feel like you need to go blow hundreds and hundreds of dollars, because you just don't. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Please join me on the next episode. We are going to be doing microphones next time. And honestly, the microphone rabbit hole might be even deeper than the audio interface rabbit hole is. So tune in for that one. It's going to be a good one. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you spending some of your time with me today. All my links will be down below if you want to support me, donate to my charity, which is my bank account. I'll leave all my social links down there below, as well as my website where you can download all my personal music for free, or you can pay whatever you want for it. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will see you on the next one for microphones. Bye.